Welcome to the Roy Morgan Weekly Update. First up is politics, and for the third straight week, the political momentum is all in one direction, in favour of the Coalition. After winning the Fadden by-election, the Coalition has gained further ground on the Labor government. On a two-party preferred basis, support for the Albanese government is down another 1% to 52%, and now just ahead of the Coalition on 48%. This is the closest result so far this year and is virtually the same as last year's election result, which gave the ALP a bare majority of one seat. For the first time this year, a majority of men favour the Coalition, 51.5% to 48.5%, while in the States, the Coalition now leads in New South Wales, 51% to 49%, and in Queensland, 53.5% to 46.5%. However, despite ALP Premier Daniel Andrews' cancellation of the Commonwealth Games, the Albanese government still leads in Victoria, 55.5% to 44.5%. And the ALP leads even more strongly in Western Australia, 58.5% to 41.5% on a two-party preferred basis. This week, Western Australians in the state electorate of Rockingham, until now held by former Premier Mark McGowan, will vote for a new local member in a test of the state government's standing. The key issue will be the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Act. Now, in better news, government confidence, whether people think the country is going in the right direction or the wrong direction, government confidence is up by 1 point to 81. Now, this is still below the neutral level of 100 because a majority, 51.5% of Australians, still believe the country is heading in the wrong direction. And just under a third say the right direction. There was more good news with consumer confidence, increasing 2.6 points to 75.2, the highest it's been since early June. The increase came after the federal government decided not to reappoint current Reserve Bank Governor Phil Lowe and decided to replace him with long-time Deputy Michelle Bullock. Bullock will take over and become the Reserve Bank's first female governor in September. Now, despite the weekly increase, consumer confidence has now spent 21 weeks below 80. Fast approaching a record period at this mark and the longest period at these recessionary levels since 1990-91. The big driver of the increase this week was renters. Their consumer confidence was up 7.9 points to 79.3. There was a small increase for people paying off their homes, but this group, the mortgage holders, still has clearly the lowest consumer confidence at only 69.1. There was also a small decrease for homeowners. There was also good news on the inflation front this week, with the index dropping 0.2% to 5.4%. So Australians now expect annual inflation to be 5.4% over each of the next 2 years. The ABS is set to release its monthly and quarterly inflation results for the year to June 2023 later this week. Now, the ABS inflation numbers, which will have a large impact on next week's Reserve Bank interest rates meeting. It's worth remembering that the ANZ Roy Morgan Inflation Expectations series showed a rise in inflation expectations during June, and this has often been a leading indicator for the ABS results released about a month later. And finally today, we look at the pressing issue for many Australians of mortgage stress. Roy Morgan is the only company that measures mortgage stress every month, and the latest Roy Morgan mortgage stress figures are now out for June. Over a quarter of all mortgage holders, 28.7%, are now at risk. This figure equates to an estimated 1.43 million mortgage holders at risk of mortgage stress, virtually unchanged on a month earlier. In addition, and probably even more concerning, nearly 1 in 5 mortgage holders are now extremely at risk, 19.6% of all mortgage holders. This figure is equivalent to 943,000 mortgage holders, almost a million, and is the highest figure for those extremely at risk for more than a decade, since September 2011. Now, these figures are worrying enough, but if the Reserve Bank lifts interest rates next week, the numbers will increase dramatically. Roy Morgan also forecasts the level of mortgage stress in the months ahead based on projected interest rate increases. And if the Reserve Bank increases interest rates to 4.6% by September, as some economists are predicting, this would increase the number of mortgage holders at risk to over 1.55 million, 30.7% of all with a mortgage. Mortgage stress at those levels would be close to the record high of 35.6% reached during the global financial crisis almost 15 years ago. And although the federal government has now appointed a new Reserve Bank governor, Michelle Bullock, she doesn't take the reins as leader until mid-September. This 2-month delay means current Governor Phil Lowe still has 2 more meetings, next week and then September, to make his mark before his departure. And that's a wrap for this week. Subscribe to our Roy Morgan YouTube channel. It's free for all the latest political, economic and market research data and insights. Thanks for listening today. Take care, and we'll see you next Tuesday.